seminar.
Am I on? Okay, I'm on too.
You're on too. Well, I'm Jeff, and he's Ken, or I'm Ken, he's Jeff. So I will go first. Jeff has elected me to go first. I will speak up. Just a little about myself. Bought my first machine out of college, 1981. Kings and Queens, Sweethearts, lovely games. Repaints 20 years ago, before there was a Miller. Built a collection of 25 games, then I decided to downsize. Moved and downsized. Get closer to the mic. Can I hold the mic? Oh, I won't hold the mic. I will. No, all right. Let's see. But then I have to eat the mic. Okay? Eat the mic. I will try to eat the mic. Retired. I retired. Quit from Ericsson. Too many conference calls. Not enough work. Restoration and repaint, one per month, 12 and 20, 21. Jeff has got most of my business. I do my own stencils occasionally. I'm currently retheming Gottlieb Team 1's, a Adaball that had an art package that wasn't the best, into a abracadabra style art, and of course I'll have pictures. And then my latest achievement is the Bally Knight Rider into a Bally Evel Knievel. And unfortunately, one of my games has died on the floor. If anybody's got a spare Bally score motor, let me know. All right. Why do you pop up? Why don't you just go forward? Can't you just go forward? No, you have to pop up. There we go. All right. So here's just to give you a sample of some of the work I've done for various customers. Amazingly, how many rare games that have come through my shop. I've got this one guy in Seattle likes to find these really rare games, this Spacewalk. Like they made 200 of it, 200 copies of the Spacewalk. But this small Brazilian company licensed some of the Gottlieb technology and pieces. It was Fippermatic. And you probably see one or two of these pictures in the Internet Pinball database. So my customer found this game in Brazil, had it shipped to me. I had to use a donor cabinet for the hardware, and all I use the harness from the game. The Playfield was totally trashed, and I stripped the Playfield, sent it off to Paris. And there's a guy over there that's done the countdowns as well as Spacewalk and repainted. Basically sanded down the whole thing and repainted it. It took about 3 months, but it came out just beautiful. Came back, and of course, I put the game together, and it's, again, a classic museum piece almost. So, and then the latest labor of love is Ed Vanderveen came to me with a concept about a year ago and said, do you think you could rewire a Knight Rider and turn it into an Evel Knievel? Of course, there's only 155 electromechanical Evel Knievels. There's like 14,000 solid-state games. So being a rare game, of course, they go for $8,000 to $10,000 being a rare game. And actually, I had restored an Evel Knievel for a good friend of mine that's got a motorcycle museum, and he just had to have electric mechanical Evel Knievel. He was actually at Wembley Stadium to see Evel jump the buses and crash at the far end, so it was kind of neat to have him own the game that displays that the jump in the buses kind of thing. So I spent 3 or 4 months gluing the first original game back together. I had to use another donor game. The game came out of New Orleans, and it was just totally rusted inside. So what you do is you find another game of same year, and you steal all the steppers and all the relays and all the pieces and glue it together, and it worked out quite nice. So that was the original Evel Knievel, and that's the one on the end of the lineup, serial number 1135. I think the last final one was 1155, and you'll see the next games in the lineup. I labeled them 1156 and 1157. So the Bally Knight Rider, they made like 3,000 copies of the Knight Rider. So it's not, of course, a very rare game. Some people like it, but it's not necessarily in the A list. It's probably a B+ list game. So we found a couple of Night Riders, and with the help of CPR for the Playfield and a resource I have in Europe to print a mirrored back glass, we are able to basically convert the Night Riders with the add of 13 relays, 12 to the underside of the playfield to hold the state machines of the various features of the Bally Evel Knievel. And then we had to rewire some of the other ones on the bottom board, as well as some of the score motor stacks on it. So and the question is, well, why did you do that? I was talking to Steve at PBR and said, why? I said, why not? And again, being a rare game, the desire is now we've got a couple more of a very rare game, and it's a great playing game. I mean, I don't know if you've played Night Rider, but it's not as fun as Evel Knievel. So here's the underside of the playfield I did, and you can see Night Rider had 2 drop target banks. Well, it was easy enough to cut 1 drop target bank out of the circuitry and reuse some of the stuff. The Bally drop target banks are pretty unreliable, so it was nice to actually added a second solenoid, so you have 2 solenoids that try to help make it a little bit more reliable. But you can see the hanging relay stack on the left and on the right. Those were holding all the state machines of there's a super, S-U-P-E-R, and there's a relay for each of the letters. And then there's a cycle, C-Y-C-L-E, and there's a relay for each of those state machines as well. And of course, as you complete one series or the other series, pop bumpers, pops turn on for 1,000 points, and the spinners turn on for 1,000 points, and outlanes turn on for free games and various other things. And there's also the drop target bank has some features. So amazingly enough, the Night Rider provided 80% of the baseline functionality of the game I needed. The 4-player, the reset cycles, and everything that was there. It's just adding all the unique specific rule sets of Evel Knievel. So it was a lot of fun. It was 120, 130, 140 hours of wire by wire. I went to the original Evel Knievel I'd done, sampled, got all the relay stacks. Do I need 3 normally open, 3 normally closed, a couple of Form C contacts. So I've got all the relays built out, and then it was just put the circuit diagram on the wall, green highlight marker, stroke by stroke, wire by wire, wired out the feature set of Evel Knievel on the playfield and then on the bottom board. So you had it was just I guess a bit of my ADD. I just get focused in and just wire, and it's actually quite enjoyable. And then I did one, and then I did another one for Ed Vanderveen as well. And those are the 2 clones you see on the floor there. So I'm going on. Is there any questions on my madness here?
Yeah, your madness.
Well, the rule set, of course, I had the original Evel Knievel, so I knew what the rule set was. I knew what relays I needed to make the rule set happen. So it was just copy. So there is go ahead. Yeah, this being old school analog stuff, and again I had a copy there to study, and certainly the score motor was interested. I don't know if you've ever seen a Bally score motor with the vertical discs. One of the discs had 3 bumps on the disc, and I needed a 4-bump disc, so I had to go out to the Pinside community and said, anybody got some discs? And I've got a couple of 5-bump discs. Well, a Dremel tool changes a 5-bump disc into a 4-bump disc real quick. So. Well, again, I had an existing one there that just allowed me to say, this does this. Here's the game over relay, and here's the here's the reset relay, and here's the double bonus relay, and here's the, it was just laid out for me on the existing game, so it was quite easy to do. So there was a target relay. There was one relay I had to rework, or like 2 or 3 relays I had to rework, and basically just pull the wires off. The whole trick was trying to reuse as much as possible as existing wire, so I didn't have to run everything new. And I've got all these stacks on. I've got all these. There's 12 contact stacks on that cylindrical score motor, and the magic was coming up in reuse to save me trouble and work on doing that. So one of the things that Evel Knievel EM has, it's got actually a little logic board, and you can see flip-flops, your basic gates up there, and it has Evel, 4-segment LED jumping the buses, and that comes off of this little printed circuit board on the top of the electromechanical Evel Knievel. So it's a hybrid game. So luckily, there's these little hobby kits out on the internet, and one of them is a 10-circuit chaser light. Just a 10 segment. There's one main chip on it, and it just fires off 10 LEDs in sequence. Yeah, hit me up afterwards, and I'll give you the link. I've got it somewhere in my notes, and I'll send you a link to that. You just order it off the web, they're like $8 or something. So you can see it. I sort of stuck it in the top right there. You can see a little board I pasted in the top of that, and that's basically where this bus jump logic board is on the original Evel Knievel as well. And I tried to run it off. There's a little power converter that takes the AC and turns it into DC to run the board. The board took a 9-volt battery. Of course, that wouldn't be convenient. So I tried to use a AC to DC converter and only put out about 6-volt DC off of a 6-volt AC. Imagine that. So the LEDs weren't bright enough. So I finally bit the bullet and just bought a 9-volt converter widget that plugs into the convenience outlet, and I just ran 9 volts DC to the board, and the LEDs got bright. And I use these Hydra head LEDs just to lighten up the bus jump logic a little bit. And you can see my hack home here of just making the little light segments for the 4 bus jump things. So there was some moving of the light bulbs around the head, but it wasn't anything too serious. So, but yeah, let's see. Do I have anything else? Oh, and then here's my wizard. So certainly about 3 years ago, a good buddy of mine were at the last TPF, and we were looking at, we had an abracadabra there, and I said, boy, this Team 1 is here, and it's the same, it's the Adaball of abracadabra, but the art is just not the best on it. So the guy said, wouldn't it be neat if we just changed the art package on it to make it an abracadabra Adaball? I said, yeah. So I went ahead and had a custom Playfield, a custom back glass made up for me in Europe. Somebody in Photoshop did some magic with the pieces. I got it printed in Europe and sent over. We took an Abra Playfield. Let's see if I got additional pictures. Here we go. I got Abra Playfield. I had a local artist rework all the lettering and all the rule set on the Abra Playfield to make it resemble what the rule set for Team 1 was. And so we built a sample wizard. And then with that, then I went through the licensing process with Gottlieb LLC, and Mondial is the rights holder, and it wasn't too bad. I had to get some liability insurance. I'm selling product, so I have to have liability insurance and keep them hold harmless in the piece as well. And so that was my sample game that I built, and it's on the floor here. Certainly a lot of people have been playing it. And then here is the proofs that I was working with. I went to, if you go to an existing manufacturer for Gottlieb product, it's a lot easier with the rights holder. So Wade Krause, of course, being a Playfield artist, we approached him about doing the Playfields, and Wade will also silkscreen back glasses. So we, twisted Wade's arm, and he's in the process. You see the first production Playfield in the booth as well, and I'm expecting the back glasses literally in 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm getting a production run of 25 back glasses, 25 Playfields, so that we can change the Team 1s into Wizards. So let's see, do I have any other slides? Whoops, yeah, went too far. There we go. There's the Playfield, and here is the first starting run. Silkscreen, if anybody knows silkscreening, it's basically color by color by color that you lay down with your screens. And he got about 3 or 4 colors into the glasses and found he had too much bleed in one of the colors and scrapped it all and started again. So, but he's on track to get those to me in hopefully 2 or 3 weeks. And so out of my 25 kits, or 25 copies, I have arranged to sell 11 of them as kits, and then 10 of them as complete games. So I've got 21 out of the 25, and I'm just amazed and astounded at the support for the project. So, but that is my presentation. Any other questions? Oh, thank you very much. My best Elvis impression. All right, let's see if I can get to Mr. Miller's.
I just need my folder out on the desktop.
There you folder go. On the desktop.
The mouse will work. This is my thing on. Let me get this over where I can see it. All right. A lot of you probably know me as Pinball Pimp. My actual name is Jeff Miller. That was me 17 years ago in 2005 with my very, very first pinball machine I restored. So I've been doing this a little while. Here's my little bio. I've been a graphic designer, art director, lead designer for art projects my whole life. So pinball was just a hobby at that point. It got me out from behind a monitor to go actually put my hands on something because I was digital for 9-10 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. I designed for NFL alumni for 10 years, Samsung corporate, a lot of celebrity design, branding out, big bumbershoot music festivals and credentials. And anyway, I worked a lot in the screen printing and film and industry when I was in my 20s. So that's kind of where the plotter and all that stencil stuff comes from. 2005, I started Pinball Pimp. Been restoring for 17 years. I've done nearly 100 machines for probably 5 for me and 95 for rich people. I was one of CPR's original artists back in 2007. You can see the 4 things I did for them before I finally got so busy. I said, I got to leave you guys. I got to do my own stuff. So I did the Fireball, Back Glass, Comet, Balio, or Power Play. And then I did that, I don't know if you've seen that speaker panel that Pinbits did for Creature, what had the mirrored tail lights and all that stuff going on. So started Pinball Pimp Stencils in 2013. 9 years now, started with 10 Bally titles, and now I have over 330 that I've done artwork for. I can't remember doing 95% of the art. It's just a big blur. So I'm a one-man band. I don't have any helpers. I don't have anybody cutting, weeding, anything. So.
And he's got job openings.
Yeah. It's like, Pinball Pimp's gotten like bigger than one guy. I don't do many restorations anymore. So anyway, I tried to think of what most people ask me about when they go to restore something. I can start with classics first. Cabinet stencils. A lot of people say, how do you strip your cabinets? Well, I used to sand a lot. Well, then I actually accidentally splashed some acetone on the top of a Gottlieb head, and I went back 3 minutes later and I wiped it off, and it was down to the bare wood. I'm like, no way. So, will these play? So that's acetone dipped rags that I just lay out on the cabinet and I just wipe off the artwork. within like 3 minutes. And you don't lose a speck of wood. There you go. So there's a little tip and trick for you to save you hours. And you can take a toothbrush and get in all the little corners where you're not sanding wood off in corners because you can't get in there with an orbital sand or anything like that. So it works really well. Let's go back. Oh no, I should have done that. So I'll just go through some photos. People ask me about like traps and bleeds and everything. Once a cabinet strip, I'll get into this in a minute. Stencil, has anybody used my stencils before? Yeah, okay. Stencils are 2 colors, usually lighter color than darker color. I have 2 registration marks that I put on the first color. Second color goes down, you lock the 2 X's over the squares, and that's gonna be the black. So there's traps and bleeds, so you don't, if I cut my stencils as a puzzle piece, you're never gonna get it right, and then you're gonna see the base color coming through where the 2 colors meet, and it's gonna look amateur. So when I design these stencils, when everything's designed, I go in and contour and put like a 1/16 of an inch bleed under the second or the first color, just like the factory did. So everything looks nice. And there was a final product right there. You can see there's the original for the red all taped up. Paint goes on, peel the stencil, there's your first color. Line up your registration squares. There you can see the bleed of the red, where that goes. Same with all that.
Question?
Oh, yeah. What?
It looks like you're doing all sides at the same time. On that.
I do, yeah. Some people are saying like, oh, I do one side and I flip it over, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't really need to do that. You can tape off your whole machine and spray all the way around, and then you're not trying to match corners, and you get paint different thicknesses, and you see it on the corner. So I spray my whole cabinet the whole color, and then I weed the whole thing, obviously peeling the first side that I painted because it's probably dried a little bit longer, but then the black goes down, and there's your final cabinet.
So when you lay it on the stencils, do you have it flat just to get the stencils?
Yeah, when I do my cabinets, I never try to put anything on sideways like it's on legs. I always put like a big comforter or something down on the shop floor, and I let gravity be my friend. So you're just letting it fall as you burnish it down. When I put my stencils on, I've got instructions out on my website, but when you lock it down, I kind of weight it down with some cans so it doesn't slip. I peel the back off, I cut a little 2-inch hinge, and I burnish it down. Now it's not gonna move. Then you pull the backing off and you just burnish it down like a bumper sticker. So that's what you get when you use my stencils. Sure. I have, but some games I don't. I just after a couple days after they're done. I use a good oil base so it levels itself. You don't get a lot of tiger striping. This is out of rattle can. A lot of these are out of rattle can. You just got to have a little talent, you know. Oh, HLV. No, I can spray with a can better than an amateur could with an HVLP gun. It just takes some practice. But a lot of times what I'll do on my oil base is I'll take a big rag, nice thick soft cloth, soak it with Novus 2. Couple days after last paint, and it's like waxing your surfboard. You just buff it down. You'll see a couple colors coming off like the nano dust, and those things will be slick as snot. A lot of times if you put a clear coat on, you'll get tiger stripes, or people try to put it on too thick and then it starts dripping and running. The only time I'd put clear coats on cabinets is if you're doing automotive and you're spraying in a booth and you really know what you're doing. Because I've had a lot of people call me and go, dude, I ruined my cabinet, I clear coated it, and it wrinkled stuff up, and I got to order stencils again. And I'm like, you probably shouldn't have clear coated. He's like, yeah, I shouldn't have. Because the Rust-Oleum clear and some of that off the shelf, it doesn't dry hard. It's still, you can put your fingernail in it. It's just not quality. People always ask me, do you have stencil? Here's a little video of a peel. People ask me if I have stencil, like what's the paint codes? I'm like, I don't have any paint codes. I usually try to match a color that's on a CPR Playfield or something off the back glass to tie the whole machine together, color-wise.
Yeah. What brands of spray do you use?
A lot of times, the best you can buy is the original white can Rust-Oleum, because because it's more of an oil base. You can stick your fingerprint in it 4 hours later. So that's where you get the nice leveling. You can use the 2X paints, but they dry quicker, so you just got to be good at the technique. You use what, Molotov or
Molotov.
Montana, right. You just don't want to use any lacquer base, like heavy lacquer, because it tends to melt the stencils like marshmallow, and then you're in for a headache. This is me weeding a Voltan about 5 or 6 years ago on the second color. So you have your X-Acto knife and your tweezers, and if you have to cut, so it doesn't fall back, but
Picking some of that stuff.
picking art.
Tell you, Pinball's a nasty one to do.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Immediately.
About 15, sometimes it depends on the paint. If it's that quick dry paint, you need to almost bring it back in and just start peeling the first side. You just don't want the paint to dry hard on the edges, because when you peel it, it's going to tear. So with the oil base, you'll have much longer to peel because it stays tackier longer. I think that was it for that, for stencils. Playfield swaps. People ask about Playfield swaps. All right, well, here's your original Playfields. So when I start pulling everything off of these games, let me see if I can get to it. Everybody can do this the way they want to do it. I run out little labels and I flag where things are and take good pictures. Sometimes I'd even go into Photoshop when it's empty, and I look back and I just make a flag on every insert, like what letter that was. So when I go back to solder all my wires on, I know exactly where everything goes. Because you'll get wires that are kind of faded, and is that orange or is that red? Does that go there? Is that, in controlled insert? So, yeah, it's just Avery labels that I just run in CorelDRAW or Illustrator and then just put laminate over top. So if it gets wet or something, it doesn't fall off. Too much work. There's the old place. So wiring hard. So here's a new CPR Playfield. Okay, that's what they start with. Next thing you put on is light sockets. Next thing you do is start with your ground braid, and that's usually where I just take photos to see what the pattern was. You can't really mess it up. If you know where to start, you'll just start here. Drop down, it comes across all these, comes back, comes across all these. So you just have to follow what the original, game had. And then go solder them all on. That's before solder. There's parts out of the tumbler getting put back on. It's all, yes? No, brand new ground braid. Go to Lowe's and buy picture wire. It's like 3 gauge, or I can't remember what it is, but it's that braided stuff, and it accepts solder very well because it just seeps down in. So it's basically
pre-tin.
Yeah, pre-tin.
You don't use solid core?
Solid core.
Braided wire?
Yeah, it's braided wire. It's
Yeah.
Solid wire.
Yeah, Williams used some solid core. Yeah.
Yeah, this was for like a strikes and spare, like 77 or 78. That's what all Bally used on a lot of that. Did Gottlieb do that too?
Gottlieb was mostly braided. I've seen some Williams.
Oh, they're
with
braided.
solid.
Right. So this is right. Everything's soldered. And then your wiring harness goes back on, and then you start soldering everything back on. And that's your Playfield swap. Well, the bottom side anyway. Anybody want to come work for me? Because I'm tired of doing this stuff.
I've got 10 wizards to do.
What I have in coin door? Coin door. Some people ask coin door, how do you get your Stetsonized? Well, what's it doing here?
It's a different style. There we go.
Bally coin door, they're all kind of the same. Gut them down. I buy Evaporust by a 5-gallon bucket. Anybody use Evaporust? Oh my God, it's the best thing ever. drop your parts in for 4 hours, and then I throw everything in a tumbler, big, huge tumbler. And then some of this stuff is like hand steel wool, just a lot of hand polishing, a lot of screws and a drill on a rag, like 100 screws to get the screw heads to look like chrome. Because when I do high-end restorations, you see everything that you didn't touch. So, like I said, I got clients that want them to look like museum pieces. So that's just right out of the tumbler. I still go hand polish that afterwards with a good metal polish. There's the coin door laid out, chrome coin door. This was for an Evel Knievel.
So you use a plater.
Yeah, but the only thing that's plated is this and this. All these parts right here are original. Sure. Just rust dip. So when you get done, there's your restored Valley coin door. I also do a lot of stuff. Here's the kind of custom coil wrappers that once again, the art in me is like, I got to do a little one-off. It's got to be custom. So I'll do some custom coil wrappers. There's the coin door hanging on the machine. There's the actual Evel Knievel. That had $1,500 in chrome plating on it.
Wow.
That's the last of the coin door. I'll show you the machine in a minute. Here was the machine.
Detail. What is all that?
Okay. Oh, I just dropped everything in here.
Detail.
Everything new.
Every coil, whether you need it or not.
Whether you need or not. All this artwork doesn't exist, so I design it. Powder coat coin doors or aprons, and those are the decals that I made myself because you can't buy them anymore. So when in doubt, thank God I'm an artist because I just recreate everything. Where do you get all that stuff, Jeff? I make it. How? Well, I used to be a graphic guy, not a pinball guy. This was my hobby turned a business. Here's just a quick photo shoot of the Evel Knievel. This machine, when I was done, it was a $3,500 donor machine. It was $6,000 in parts, and it was around $8,500 in labor. Wow. So this was about an $18,000 game. The guy drove in from Nebraska, spent the night with his wife, rented a van, drove 30 hours back. So that was about a $2,000 trip. When he came to pick it up, I said, I'll let you do the honors to turn on the machine. And he looks at me and goes, where's the power switch? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? You're joking? He's like, no, this is my first pinball machine. And I'm like, I feel honored, you know? I'm like, are you kidding me? He said this was his childhood dream machine. I'll get some close-ups. I wish you guys could see it in person. I mean, the pictures don't do it justice. When you can touch it and feel it, can you zoom in? I don't know if you can zoom in or not. I mean, it's just on another level. But those are my stencils. A lot of that some of that was shot with rattle can, believe it or not.
I use a darker blue.
Yeah, I tried to match the colors on the Playfield that they were using. So the only thing we used on this machine, this was a brand new cabinet. It was CPR everything. It was new board. The only thing we used was the wiring harness and the hardware. That was it. So 80% of the game got thrown away. Yes? I got a thing on that. Everybody, that's like my number. How do you get your pepper? You know, like, let me see. I think I have that in another one. So yeah, like I said, it's almost like a museum piece at this point. Like you don't even want to play a game on it. Let me get to there was the coin door. There's the inside of the cabinet.
Good.
There's the Playfield swap with all the Evel Knievel coil wrappers. All the little tags are put back on that don't exist anymore. What's that? I know. It's like it should be gray. That's CPR for you. There's a little of the work right there.
Very nice.
Do I have pictures of the head inside? It's a labor of love. There's the bottom of the cabinet with a little laser engraved plaque. So, there was the inside of the head. All new boards, sonic clean wiring harnesses, all new cards everywhere, everything stapled in, new power supply, everything repinned. I basically built a brand new game from the ground up, better than new. It was a brand new cabinet built by Kirk Weaver, who does the licensed cabinets. I think a cabinet's $750, $800. Time I had it shipped down to Tampa, it's like $1,200 for an empty cabinet. So you can see why they cost so much when you start with, all the crazy parts. So I had to get a good picture with that crazy machine. So that's that. Let me see if I can get into some of the detail stuff now. Here. I have an old airbrush from the 80s that I used to airbrush. And that right there was the tip that they give you to put on the end to protect the needle so it wouldn't get bent when you'd store it. And by accident, I was messing around one day, wait a minute. If instead of spraying a nice mist, what if it just collected something in a thimble and then it just had to spit it out a hole? So I started messing around with pressure and everything. And this is how I do it. There's the airbrush. I test on poster board, and when I get it spraying just right, then I pan over to the machine, and you hold your breath, and you hope it doesn't spit, and you pepper the cabinet. So I've probably done 20 cabinets, and I've never messed one up yet. Thank God, knock on wood. But there's your dust, and then that's the pepper that you get when you're done. So it's like factory.
Yeah, Dick Blick also has a little cap with a straw on it that you can get.
Oh, yeah, right.
Goes in the Montana cans. And again, a little practice, and you can get a nice little speckle effect using this straw cap.
So there you go. There's your empty cabinet. Brand new cabinet. You can see all the little traps and the bleeds where the blue goes, the red, goes over the red and everything there. Oh.
Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice starting with a new cabinet, although it takes just as long to redo a new cabinet as does an old one because some of the holes aren't drilled and you got to cut wood and replace it all. So, yes. This was a CPR. I usually try to keep originals because they tend to look nicer, but I just had to I had to buy 3 Playboys one time just to get a good back glass. But that's when they were $500 games, 12 years ago. Now it's I'm not going to pay $3,500 to get a back glass. But I'd buy a brand new one out of a crate for $1,000 if anybody's got one right now, because I got another restoration coming up and I need one.
Evel?
No, Playboy.
Oh.
All right, let me go to, does anybody do any WPC machines in here, decals? WPC cabinet. There's how they come in. And there's where you get your heat gun. And you scrape an inch at a time, turtle's pace, because they're heat pressed into the raw veneer. And that's why they were so durable out in the general public. So once all that's scraped off, you can see all the glue that's still left behind. That's when I have to use about a gallon of acetone, and you just soak that down and get a 3-inch scraper. And when you scrape it, it'll just roll up jelly as big as your finger. And it's still there. So that's a mess when you try to go sand that because it gums up your, So the best thing to do is just to roll it off. You can see all the glue left on Monster Bash there. So once the cabinet's completely cleaned down, then comes the whole Bondo work and, redoing all your corners and fiberglass and all that. And I just wanted to show right here, this is the wood grain part that everybody asked me about. Because when they paint their stencils, if you have a little bit of that dried, wood grain, you can just keep spraying it and spraying it and spraying it. It's just like a crack. It just keeps soaking in. Unless you use a high-fill automotive primer, something to completely cover that, it's just, it looks great once you paint it, but 2 days later, when half the paint evaporates and it cures, that's when you still see your wood grain. What happens is when you put, even through the base coat, if you have any little divots, my vinyl stencils aren't gonna contour to that. So when you spray, you'll get all these little tines that go under the stencil and go into that grain, and then you don't have a nice smooth line. So you need to correct that before you even put base coat on. So this is an example right here of, okay, it's bondoed a couple times. This looks really smooth. You can see where there's wood there and a little bondo there. Cabinet's been primed. See the wood grain?
Yep.
That's where everybody's mistake is. I get phone calls all the time. How do you get rid of that? How do you get rid of that? All right, here's how you get rid of it.
More Bondo. Oh, no.
$3 can at Lowe's. Now you can use glazing putty. You can go spend $50 and buy automotive stuff. It's a little overkill. Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. It's $3 a can at Lowe's. It's enough to do 5 machines. It's powder. You mix it up to the right consistency, not too thick, not too watery. But what you do is you take like a squeegee from my stencils and you basically skim the entire cabinet, okay? About an hour later, you take a foam sanding block and just lightly go over it, and it'll just float away like baby powder. And what you're left with is that. See how it fills everything in?
It's an easy sand, is it?
Same thing on a Bally cabinet doing stencils. You just want to have a glass cabinet. There's a little close-up. Now that's after primer. Now this is in between 2 rounds of primer, okay? Last coat of primer, that's what you end up with. It's like flat black Formica. No more wood grain. Okay? No more wood grain. Oops. That's where the coin door goes.
Yeah, that's where the coin door goes.
So, and then once you lay down your paint, it's just smooth. And that's gonna have a decal over it, so you're never even gonna see that. Any certain what? No, I mean, whatever you can use. A lot of that stuff's just over the shelf or regular. I don't recommend using like a latex primer if you're gonna be using an oil. You don't wanna mix water base and, because it can't bite in. So I think the black primer I used on that was just 2X black primer, 12 cans of it, just rattle it, throw it away. Sometimes like, dude, you could do it so much cheaper if you just do that. I'm like, I want convenience of just throw the can away and wash my hands and leave. No cleaning out guns, it's just primer. So there's the back of the head. So that's how you get a cabinet really smooth, is just that one little step is the difference between like amateur looking and like pro looking. Yeah. What I do is when I prime, I usually go around the cabinet and then go to the front and then go to the side and come back around. I make like 3 or 4 passes. Well, no, that's what I mean. I do 3 or 4 passes and then it dries. Okay?
Oh.
Then I go 3 or 4 hours later, next day. No power tools. It's all like medium grit foam sanding blocks. So it's just, you got to feel the cabinet, right? You got to feel it by hand. Yeah. And then I skim. You got to wait a couple days because, like I said, you're not going to see that wood grain when it's flooded, wet paint. When half that evaporates and it shrinks, that's when the wood grain comes out. So that's when you skim it, and then you can immediately go and prime an hour later and do another 3 or 4 rounds, and then I lightly sand it, and if you see a couple little mistakes, you can go back and hit it with some more and touch up the primer, but that's it. It's primer, the skim coat, and then primer again. So once again, there's 5 different ways of doing it. I found this is probably the cheapest and most convenient. Decals. Everybody can put on, has their own way of doing decals. I've done them to where you actually put them on the machine, which most people do, and then they cut them with a razor on the corners, and then you can see the white edge of the vinyl, or they try to take a marker and then you look across it and it's kind of got a red tinge to it because you marked on the actual paint, and so, go ahead.
Never consider putting that decal on top of the old decal.
thought about it, but that's not the wrong, that to me, that's not the right. Once again, my clients don't want just something, they don't want lipstick on a pig. They want the real deal, all right? So what I do is I cut my stencils first. I might lay it down on the cabinet 10 times and line it up in a corner and then say, okay, I need to cut just the littlest sliver off front because I back everything in about a 32nd of an inch, 64th of an inch from the edge, so your finger can't rake across it and start the decal, right? So I'll trim. There's the pieces all cut down. When it's all laid on and you know, ready to go, you do the same method, the hinge method. You weight it down, you get everything lined up. I always start with the front edge and the bottom. You don't care about the back, you don't care about the top, because that's where the side rail is going to go over top of it. So you got to get that front 90-degree right on the money. There's more trimming. See the little slivers? I mean, they're like hairs. And then when you put the decals on, okay, here's another trick. People are like, how do you not see the edge? Since I can trim the decals first, then you go around the edge of the decal with a big fat Sharpie marker. And that makes the white vinyl edge black. Because like I said, you can cut it, but then you got to go take a fat marker, and then when you mark down that edge, it goes onto the paint, and you look across it, and it looks like that reddish kind of transparent. It just doesn't look good. There's my decal edge. You see it? It's that precision. I've lived in a nano world my whole life with detail and artwork. I zoom in to stuff, so I live in that detail world. So when you're out like that, you don't even see it. It's like, how do you do that? Well, it's just a technique. It takes a lot of time to do it that way, but same deal. Just don't even see it. So that's WPC decals. WPC Playfield. Same deal. You can see like the chewed up wood on all the scoops and, you know, well, I don't know if you've ever done one before, but you just literally take them down to a flat playfield. Same as the classics. You want to put new ramps on and all that, which I did, like that's just old stuff. I mean, look at this thing. The hacks, that scoop.
How do you fix the wood?
The wood, I either use like an epoxy type putty that you can mix up, and you almost kind of mold it before it gets hard, and then I go in some files, and you just lightly, you know, hand sand everything down.
A JB Weld epoxy putty that
Yeah,
stands
so
up?
there's just the nasty dirty. Every guide comes off, everything gets regrained. When everything starts going back together, there's the scoops redone. I don't think I have a picture I don't have a picture there where I actually do, where it shows the wood. I've got on my iPad, I could show some of that. But that's just kind of some of the playfield work. I mean, I could sit here for 3 days and talk about how you do a playfield. I mean, you got to figure out some of this stuff. This is the one I just finished. That's not the same game, but I'll show you some of the detail on the playfield. See, there was a scoop that was redone. Right there. Another scoop right there that was redone.
Did some color touch up on the putty?
And then after the putty, I go mix the color of wood and just acrylic paint, brush it around. Sometimes I'll even take a little darker color and dry brush it so it kind of looks like wood grain. And then I'll go actually get like automotive clear 2-part or something good, just mix up a little batch on a brush and just put a couple layers on to really make it nice, yeah. So that was the game. That's all new ramps, all new chrome, all new everything. That was a $12,000 World Cup soccer. It started as a $5,000 game. We had about 3,000 or 4,000 in parts and had about 4,000 in labor. Some of these are my decal mods that didn't exist on the game right there, which I sell. But boy, they look nice when you put all the brand new parts back on. It's like a brand new game. But it's 40, 60, 80, 100 hours, 120 hours. It's just a labor of love, I guess. I'm tired of doing it at this point after 100 games. I don't want to do another machine. pimping. Just some fun stuff. Why not go paint the xenon speakers? Like you said, why? Because I'm the pimp. Coil wrappers, blue coil wrappers. There's the Playfield swap, blue coil wrappers. That was a fun one. A lot of stuff going on there. I was like, you know that one time when I put a hockey rink in the bottom of a Bobby Orr power play? And I even designed a center ice artwork for it.
Oh, my God.
Just one machine. But that's what the clients love, because now they got something that nobody else has. EM machines. I always completely rip all that off. Every stack gets cleaned. That's a brand new piece of wood. They usually have so much grease on them. I just go cut a new piece of wood. All these are reprinted and stapled. Everything tries to get polished up, and you just stick it all back on a nice new piece of wood. There's the front. I think we chromed that coin door.
He speckles the inside.
Even speckled the inside. When was that? 2016. What was that? 5 years ago? This was for a client, a doctor up in Virginia. He wanted all these parts nickel plated. So he had like another $1,200 in plating on this game. The whole coin door, everything. You see it all. It was ridiculous. Like 43 pieces to that coin door. I kind of already showed that, just little details. You can have fun with it. I kind of look at these things as big model kits. You know, I was a master model builder as a little kid. I won all the model contests, hands down. So these are just big model kits that you can actually play with and not sit on a shelf and look at. So that's kind of what got me into pinball. I've been playing since I was a kid. These are just some of the games I've done over the years. All full-blown restorations with playfields and cabinet. A lot of these games I did back before pinball blew up and guys just wanted a nice original game. I powder coat WPC stuff, but I usually don't do the classics. Sometimes unless you're doing like a Flash Gordon where it's black or something, it just doesn't look. I kind of try to keep a lot of stuff period correct. Once again, these aren't mine. These are for clients, so I kind of have to do what they want. That Joker poker was a restore for a guy in Australia. When it finally got down 6 months later, took it to the Newcastle Pinball Show, and it won Best in Show. He said he had about 10 guys that wanted to buy it off of him. I don't know how many EMs did they make of Joker poker? Not many, huh?
No,
Not many. That's another one of those rare ones, yeah. So, yeah, I've done a lot of games. I mean, I can't even keep track of them. Some of these that you see, I've done 3 Twilight Zones or 4 Monster Bashes. I'm only going to show you one of them. Yeah. I mean, most of the time I get a game to restore, I've already done the stencil for it. I mean, if it's the custom stencil, somebody will usually, I have somebody try to scan their cabinet. If it's something easy, they'll do pencil tracings. Then they send it to me, and then I roll it out and scan it on my end and then go create the artwork.
How many scans have I sent you, Jeff?
I don't know. I can't keep track anymore.
At least, yes.
So, I mean, you can see it just doesn't end. Well, I guess that's the end, but I can't. I clicked on my folder the other day. I'm like, how many machines have I done? It said 109 folders, but they weren't all machines. I mean, some were, but I was like, there's got to be at least 90 to 100 of those in the last 17 years, along with 9 years of stencil cutting and designing 330 stencil sets. And it's just a big black hole to me. I can't even remember what I did 2 years ago. I mean, it's daunting, the hours. People say you're crazy. I'm like, I know. I think I ADHD at the age of 55, and I think it's the love when you see, it really is like overhauling when they pull the blindfold off, like Chip Foose does those cars for people. When these clients come get their machine, they're almost in tears. I mean, they're just like, I cannot believe what I'm looking at. Like, I knew you did nice work, but to see it in person, and that's mine, like, that's really mine. Like, yeah, you paid me to do it. It's like, so anyway, yeah, sure. That's kind of the end of my, so questions. Oh, I think I'm just so scatterbrained sometimes and all the stuff I want to do. But once I get focused, then it's then it's laser. What? Oh, no, yeah. No, I'm scatterbrained in all my ideas and where do I go next? But once I get down into it, yeah, you just got it. I always tell people, like, these stencils, some of these cabinets I paint are like 30 hours. It's not a weekend warrior project. I've got guys call me all the time, dude, I messed up my stencils, man. I stuck the stencil. How long did you let the base coat dry? A day. And it's like, I pulled all my base coat off. I'm like, you didn't let the cabinet dry. So they end up, to try to save 3 days, they end up costing themselves another $200 stencil set and 3 weeks of work because they got to sand it all off and start over. So it's like, you just couldn't wait, could you? You just couldn't wait. So there is a lot of patience involved in dry time. Just move on to something else. So, sure. Right. Oh, right. I haven't gotten to that point just because where are you gonna get all the parts? Where are you gonna get target units remanufactured? You know what I mean? Here's where I think there's a market for, and I might try to do this just because I'm trying to move the business around. I might kind of do the CPR model where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do 10 Centaur cabinets, brand new, automotive, paint booth, clear, over the top, like unbelievable. So it's like $5,000 a cabinet, and I got 10 of them. So you buy one from me, you can swap your Playfield, you can drop it in, put any color powder-coated hardware, chrome, but the cabinet's the part that you either have me or Chris Hutchins do and 6-month wait, and so I just figured if I do 10 cabinets, signed, numbered, stamped, you might sell that, and then you move on to Fathom.
Last question.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sure. I'm $50 an hour, so it takes about, I don't know, from stripping everything down, it's 30 to 40 hours, so a couple $1,000s to do a WPC cabinet for labor. And then parts, right? It used to be a lot of money, but now with these machines going nuts, I'm doing my Arabian Nights right now with about 4,000 in parts, about $5,000 in labor, and I've got 2 guys that are interested in it for 22, 23,000 before I've even finished it. So I always tell people, it's like there's 99 out of 100 people out there say, oh, you're crazy. You're never going to get that. That's stupid. Who would spend that much on that game? Oh, my God. And then I got the one guy going, I can't give you money fast enough. And that's the only guy I need. I don't need to deal with all you people. You know what I mean? It's like, you can say I'm crazy, but I'll have the last laugh when I show you the cash, right? So.
Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, sure. Did we run over a little bit? 6:01, time for the TWIPY Awards. I was going to say, if anybody's got any questions, my booth's around the corner. You can come ask me some other details if you want to. So.